It's the creativity. It's the fabric that you see that's like, oh, what could I make with that? And it's the patterns you see. And it's the very first time I made my own pattern, I was so intimidated that I didn't start on it, the fair quilt, that year until March, because I just didn't know where to start. But after I did one, that's the most fun, is creating your own pattern. It's whatever catches my eye and what I think the public would like. And I try not to do the same style or theme from year to year. I did do one in 2000, which one was that? In 2008 was the first time I made my own pattern, and I did, it was basically a picture of the round barn out there with a farm scene and everything. Now that one was smaller because it was my own design. It was all applique. But other than that, I did one to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the tractor pull out there. But other than that, they're regular quilts. The first 3 or 4 years, I did large ones, but not this large. And then I discovered after doing a few of the king-size ones that they went for the most money and were the most popular. So then I won't do anything smaller than a king-size for the fair. It used to be I'd be putting the binding on the night before the fair, but I've gotten a lot better at that. So usually June or first week of July, it's ready to go.
So it takes about 6 months?
Yeah, 4 to 6 months, depending on the pattern. I do keep track of hours, so I've had a couple where it took 300 or 400 hours. So then, yeah, that's pushing into middle of July before it's done. And sometimes I might start the end of December if I've picked a very difficult one.
Okay.
So they started off at a few $1,000s, $1,000 to $2,000, and then all of a sudden it jumped from 2 to 4, and then threw the $10,000 one in there. And now they're averaging between 4 and 6,000 until last year.
So it started off with 1,000 back when you started, and then it averages about 4 to 6.
Yep.
And then what was last year's pattern that proved to be so
it was
popular?
A paper-pieced coral reef rainbow ombre. You sew all the fabric to paper. The pattern is on the paper. And you do it backwards. You sew it always upside down. The paper's always on top. And then you get your piece and you trim the outside to their line. And then you flip it over and you have that section done. And then you sew all your sections together. And then when it's together, you rip all your papers out.
Everything's always perfect. Perfect points. Perfect.
That's what I love about paper piecing, is it's perfect when you're done. There's no matching seams. You don't have to worry about ripping something out because the seam didn't come together the way you wanted it. It's perfect when you're done. That one took 275 hours to make.
Do you work on it every day? Do you spend time every day on the fair quilt?
Most of the time. From January till June, yep. Sometimes I only have an hour, but it's you get more progress when you can sit down and sew 3, 4, 5 hours at a time because you get a flow.
Sure, sure. Just like anything, if you have a better block of time, you can just
be more productive.
Right, right.
It got to, after 5 or 7 years, people are like, "Oh, I can't wait for the fair. I want to see what you did this year." And then they always say, "Oh, you outdid yourself from last year. How are you going to outdo yourself next year?" Well, there's just so many patterns out there to pick from that it's not hard to outdo yourself if you're willing to put in the time that it takes. You appreciate their comments. You appreciate that they look forward to it. And it gives you an extra drive to be careful at what you pick for next year's quilt because you want it to be good. So it's very humbling, but it's also very rewarding.